If you're doing the recycling today, you're probably asking what happens to all those milk cartons, all that food packaging that we throw away. And this week, on the other side of the world, negotiators are meeting in South Korea, hoping that they will secure the world's first treaty to fight against this kind of thing, plastic pollution.
Global plastic production has been increasing rapidly for decades. The United Nations says around 20 million tonnes a year is ending up in our seas and oceans. Our environment correspondent Jonah has more.
The war against plastic pollution is being fought one piece at a time on the beach in Folkestone. I've come to meet a man who calls himself the Coastline Runner.
Luke.
Jonah, hello.
Nice to meet you. You must be absolutely freezing.
Yeah, I'm a bit cold, a bit pocky, but needs must.
And what are you doing here?
I'm running the coast, I'm collecting plastic pollution. There's just so much of it on our beaches all around the world.
Luke has run up the east coast of England and into Scotland, picking up rubbish along the way. So far, he says he's gathered more than 700 kilos.
How do you feel when you're picking up other people's litter?
I feel desperate, I feel a bit angry, and that makes me run even further. And I just feel we've got to start considering our environment rather than just treating it like a bottomless waste bin, because it's not.
Sadly, the amount being cleaned up is being dwarfed by the plastic that's getting into our seas. The United Nations thinks it's about 20 million tonnes a year. That's the same as a rubbish truck emptying its load into the sea every minute of the day and night. And it's getting everywhere. In particular, the tiny microplastic particles, which can come from, among other things, our clothes and car tyres.
We find them from the highest mountains, some of our studies near the top of Mount Everest, right down to our deepest oceans. We find them from the poles to the equator. We need to be concerned because it will be incredibly difficult to remove microplastics from the environment. Once they've entered the environment, they're going to stay there and they're going to persist.
So what can be done? Well, this week, negotiators from around the world are in South Korea, trying to agree on an international, legally binding treaty to hopefully turn the tide on plastic pollution.
The most obvious and yet hardest to agree solution is for the world to stop making so much plastic in the first place.
If you look at a business as usual scenario, we're looking at millions and millions of extra tons of plastic waste entering the environment by 2030. And so we really need action soon. There's an urgency to tackling plastic pollution.
Which do you think is more recyclable?
His rubbish on display, Luke calls in at a local primary school in Folkestone to meet a group of pupils called the Eco Guardians. So what would they say to those negotiating a plastics treaty?
There's so much plastic in the ocean. Like every second, animals are probably dying from eating one little bit of plastic.
All like packages with polystyrene in them to just be like completely banned.
Try to reuse plastic bottles if we get them, but try not to use them as much.
I want like just everyone to recycle, and maybe like we could have like an art day where we make clothes of like art designs out of like plastic.
And also
all great ideas, but are the world's grown-ups listening? Jonah Fisher, BBC News, in Folkestone.
Sending a very powerful message to the grown-ups there.
Well done to them. Very good.